Hello YouTube and welcome to Go Girl Gaming's coverage of the game Arche Age. On this channel I will be covering housing, farming, crafting, auction house usage, trading, and all related updates and features. In this video I am continuing the crafting series, an in-depth look, and right now I am standing next to the Regal printing press. You can pick up this design here in Mirage Isle, build it, and place it in your home for your private printing pleasure. Printing has 4 categories. First up is paper, and under paper is paper. Paper is used to craft a variety of items, including lights, books, and music paper. Blank regrade scrolls are needed to regrade your items. Under scrolls are the regrade scrolls. As you can see, once I click the correct thing, one of the materials that you need to make, say, for example, the weapon regrade scroll is a blank regrade scroll. Then you also need the appropriate gem. Next are books. The art of language is so that you will learn a foreign language, and then the rest of these have various purposes in the game. Definitely something I'm going to be exploring out of curiosity. And then lastly are the spell books. There are only 2 of those, and these will probably be more useful to people that are interested in PvP, in that they give you, the brick wall gives you a decrease all types of received damage, minus 60 for 30 minutes. And then the unstoppable force gives you an increase in melee and magic attacks by 86 for 30 minutes. Notice that you need a rather high proficiency to craft either book. Next is Masonry. There are 3 categories under Masonry. First is the decor, which is currently only 1 item, the square brick flower bed. This is strictly a decor item. It's not something that you use to plant things in, and has a proficiency requirement of 10,000. Next are the runes and dice. I have no idea what these are used for, so if anybody does and feels like commenting down below, feel free to do so. These also have a proficiency requirement on them to make. And last but not least, something everyone will be familiar with, and probably where your proficiency, it's not probably, this is where your proficiency is going to be gained. Making stone bricks for building things. And for those that do not want to purchase hereafter stones, either on the auction house or in the cash shop, making the hereafter stones. There are other things that you make as well. Stone packs for, again, building things, because of course you need to make the stone bricks and then you make the stone pack. Stone mass production, which is basically just an efficiency thing once you get the proficiency to do so. So you can make 10 at a shot instead of 1 at a time. It's going to be nice to get that. That's a real time saver. Gunpowder, rising star stone, and sturdy stone. All used for different things in the game. Tailoring. This is where you make cloth armor, primarily. But you also need to make fabric for different things. There are different things in the game that take fabric. For example, ships with sails require fabric packs, and there are other items that require fabric packs in order to make them. First up is the tailoring gear. This is where you make your fishing lines for the fishing poles. And you can also make a decor item called the plushie hat prize egg. Requires 40,000 proficiency to make. Contains a special tailoring headdress. Open the animal hat egg and see what's inside. Okay. If I get I'm not planning on specializing in tailoring, but if I do happen to get the proficiency, and I get the materials, I'll make it and put up a video. Special tailoring goods. The first two are, as I've described in previous videos, items that you create after you have gained a certain proficiency. You place it in your house and it increases your proficiency in that skill. The other three items have to do with plushies. I believe there is a quest I know there's a quest in Two Grounds. I do not know where the quest is on Harani, but all things being equal, it's probably somewhere in Loot Song. I never found it, but that's where I would imagine it would be. As you can see, it's a package of plush toys and playful statues guaranteed to put a smile on even Curios's face. Other than put them somewhere, these are basically decor items. The only thing that's disturbing me right now is it says it needs a Harani sewing machine. And I know the Harani sewing machine is for proficiency. This is the first time I've ever seen something that indicated you actually could use it. So now I'm curious. Next up is cloth armor. As I mentioned in the metalworking video, the cloth armor and the leather armor are not what they appear to be. If you really want to make cloth armor in order to use for fighting, you have to go to the individual categories, which again are tiered in that you have to cannibalize the item in the previous item in the tier in order to make the next item in the tier. And then of course there are also proficiency requirements as you go up. The cloth armor is actually something that you do again for proficiency. There are quests in Lilliet Hills where the blue salt merchants are on the west side, and in Anvilton on the east side where the blue salt merchants are, that can get you this type of armor for logging, prospecting, farming, husbandry, and I forget where you get the fishing one. And there might be another one. I'm guessing because there's no quest for the ones that are listed under cloth and leather, that for those who actually want the items anyway, you can craft them. So all of these that fall under this category, both in cloth and in leather, are a 5-piece set. And if you have 3 of the pieces, you will get an increase to whatever skill it's related to by 100. And if you wear all 5 pieces, you will get a 200 point increase in your proficiency. In the case of the item that I have highlighted right now, you get an increase in your handicraft. So that's for the craftsman's hood. The tailor's hood, obviously, tailoring, weaponsmith, proficiency increase. And that's it under cloth. So the remaining ones will be under leather. And as you can see, all of these items require a proficiency in tailoring to make. Next is fabric. You will need the loom in order to do all of these fabric items, including the glossy feather. I've made some of these. The glossy feather once you make it, you then make it to use it in something else. Then, of course, you have cloth production. And like I said, fabric packs are used in a variety of different things. One of them being to make the clipper boats, the sailboats, any of the boats with sails. They're also used for other things. And then there's also cashmere thread and handicraft yarn. Again, those are items that you use to make other things. Same with the beautifully colored fabric and the cloud spun fabric. You use them to make them to make something else. Cloth costume. Wow. I had never looked at this before. All of these are exactly what they say, costumes. I believe you can actually buy some of these off of the cash shop. But in case you want to craft them, and since none of these seem to have a proficiency, if you want to run around in a game that seems to be set in a more ancient time, wearing some modern duds, there you have it. And then lastly, just as we saw in the metalworking video, there is a costume that will give you a buff, a cloth costume that will give you a buff, and this buff is related to what generally cloth will give you. It increases your max health by 150, your magic attack by 4.5, your cast speed by 1.5, and defense penetration by 200. As with the one that you make under plate, the costume is permanent, but its buff remains active for only 30 days. You can reactivate its buff by washing the costume. Again, the mats, the materials for this item are pretty high, as well as the proficiency, so I would be curious to see what it sells for on the auction house. The last thing we're going to cover in this particular video is leatherworking. Leatherworking will be very similar to cloth in both its categories. First up is leather goods. This is actually where the two will differ, because these are some interesting items. First is the recovery pouch, which is used to bring goods up to the surface. So this is basically something you use for treasure hunting. The war drum is what you use to, from what I've seen, it's what you use to set off a dance party. And then you have the nets used to tame or capture various beasties. None of these require a crafting proficiency. So I personally intend on working in leather, so I'm definitely going to check out some of these items for fun, and I'll post out a video. Next is the special leatherworking goods. Again, these are the two items that require a high proficiency to make, and then in turn increase your proficiency in that skill once you place them in your house. Then we get to leather armor that really isn't armor. It's the items that you use to increase your proficiency in a particular skill. So for here, it's a set of 5. They all require proficiency in leatherworking to make, and then they will increase your proficiency in whatever area they are related to. So in this case, it will increase your metalworking. The tanner's hood will increase your leather crafting. So since I'd probably be in my house doing this stuff, I might consider making those later on, but it's definitely not something I would put effort in right away. That's just me personally. And then the carpenter's hood or the carpenter's outfit is for carpentry efficiency. And then last but not least, something I'm definitely interested in making is the beekeeper's veil, because I plan on having bees, and allegedly these are supposed to guard you against bees while you are gathering their honey. So I'm very curious as to how well that works. My only concern would be the Moonlight Archeum Shard, how fast I could get that, and the small seed oil. And actually, because these are large animals that you have to get these from, so would have to get a hold of some combine feed pretty quickly in order to get it. So it might be a while before I can actually utilize this, so might just be stuck using smoke bombs on my bees, or have to wait to make the acorn. But I really want to use that honey, so we'll see what happens. Go live. And then last but not least is the leather costume, which, similar to the cloth and the plate costume, is very high in mats, very high in proficiency to make, is wrapped, but gives you an awesome buff. I say awesome simply because it's a costume slot. It doesn't replace anything you already have. It's an extra. It's a gimme. It's a costume that does more than just look pretty. In this case, it increases your evasion by 1.5, your crit rate by 1.5, defense penetration by 250, and your magic defense by 200. As with the cloth and the plate one, the costume is permanent, but its buff remains active only for 30 days, and you have to reactivate the buff by washing the costume. One thing I may have failed to mention on both the cloth and the armor, and it's also true with the leather, is that these are for level 50, so you can't give it to a lower level. Well, you can give it to them, but they won't be able to do anything with it until they hit level 50. So that ends this video in crafting. We are in the home stretch. Only got 4 more to go. Hopefully I can get all 4 of them done on the next video. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this series. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned. Hopefully we can get her done in the next video.